Minister, obviously the situation here is changing hour by hour, day by day, but if you can just give us an assessment of how things are going since Monday. Obviously the death toll continues to rise, but you are also dealing with this humanitarian crisis that's evolving.
Yeah, I mean, since the Monday noon, we've been seeing an intensified aggression by the Israeli forces on Lebanon. This pushed tens of thousands of people from, at the beginning, South Lebanon, and then later from Beqa to move, to safer places. Seeing tens of people being massacred on that day had actually pushed everybody to take their family and kids to a safer place. So we are now in a complex humanitarian situation, in a complex emergency, where we see tens of thousands of people being displaced. As we speak, around 73,000 have moved to collective shelter. I think the number might be higher because we're still counting. So this means around 250,000 people were displaced in the last 72 hours. This is immense for any country. For a small country in Lebanon, this is a significant proportion of the people of Lebanon. For a country going through multiple crises, this is even more straining all the facets of the response we are working on. But we keep going to support and respond to the needs of the Lebanese population. We're working with the local governors, with the UN agency, with the non-governmental actors, local groups, grassroots groups. Everybody now has pitched in to support, but the needs are very high, and you can imagine by the minute they're increasing.
When you say the needs are high, I mean, what do you need right now?
Right. The most critical matter is to host people in safe places, in certain shelter. We transformed schools, public schools, into collective shelters. So now we have around 500 schools were made quickly. I mean, we have assigned some of them prior to the crisis, but no one imagined that such a large number of people, of population, are going to be displaced in a very short period of time. This is unprecedented in any humanitarian situation. We're talking about something around 250,000 people moving in 1 hour at the same time. This is very critical, this is unprecedented, and you can imagine the consequences of this on everything, on the services, on mattresses, on food for children, on water. We're working. We established the response mechanism in the same day, in the evening of that day, last Monday. And on the next day, we started actually responding with the UN agencies, with the Office of the Humanitarian Affairs for the UN, OCHA, with others like UNICEF and other UN, WFP, and other UN agencies. And the response has been established through our local structures that we've
Are you overwhelmed, though, by the situation, given the volume of people, given you didn't expect it?
I'll just give you an anecdote. I lived in London for a few years, and once there were 15 centimeters of ice and snow on the train tracks in London, and the city almost stopped on that hour. This is London, this is the capital of Great Britain. So how could you actually imagine a situation in a small country going through financial crisis, political impasse, war since last October? Displacement actually has been taking place since October until we've seen this massive displacement in the last few days. So definitely we're overwhelmed, and we're feeling the needs of people by the minute. So we're really working now to establish more and more support through our local structure that exists, through our the products we have, whether mattresses, blankets, or food or non-food items, but also seeking support from outside.
And who's giving that support to you from the outside?
At the moment, we're working through the UN channel. We're going to launch very soon a flash appeal for people to support through the UN agencies, but also through our ambassadors and the Lebanese community or diaspora outside. So, but this will take time. It's crucial that we get support through the UN system, through OCHA, UNICEF, WFP, and others.
There's still a lot of anger, though, directed at the government. Our teams were in the south of the country, and they met with people who were very upset about not finding any shelter, their children sleeping out in the open. I understand you're overwhelmed, but what would you say to these people who are escaping with nothing but the clothes on their backs?
I mean, we've instantly, whenever we know there are certain families or a community on the road, we're guiding them to a certain place where they can actually go into a collective shelter, a school. I mean, it's a makeshift shelter. So we're doing our best not to have anyone sleep on the streets, but 250,000 people leaving at the same time is something that no system could cope with at the same time, coming on the same road. So we understand the frustration of people, and we do fully understand it, and we're doing all our best to stand with them and to help them in this journey. But the question is for the cause of this, for the cause of the massacre and the attacks and the destruction that we've been seeing in the past few days. It's unprecedented. It's unprecedented to have around 600, 700 people killed every day. And this is something that the world should be actually witnessing and should shiver to see these images.
Western leaders have urged both sides. They've called for calm. We saw a call for a ceasefire from the United States and France. Benjamin Netanyahu has said we haven't agreed to anything and that they need to continue the bombardment. How do you react and respond to that?
Our position is clear. Our Prime Minister is in New York. It's very clear. Lebanon is not seeking, and Lebanon does not want war. We want to go back to the UN resolution, to respecting all the international laws and conventions, international humanitarian law for that matter, Geneva Convention. These were all broken. They've been shattered in South Lebanon for the last few days, and in Beirut and in other parts of Lebanon. So we need to go back to the UN resolution. We need to go back to the space that was put by nation states after World War II, to the Security Council, to be responsible for once and really take a tough decision to stop this war.
Israel points the finger of blame obviously at Hezbollah, and they say that they are the ones that have breached all sorts of resolutions and have continued to fire rockets at Israel for almost a year. Do you think that more pressure needs to be put on Hezbollah from your side to get them to pull back?
I think our official position is really to stop this war. There are a lot of dialogue happening in Lebanon with the different parties, different groupings in Lebanon to reach this. But this something has to do as well with stopping the bombardments and the massacres that the Lebanese communities have been facing.
Do you think that Hezbollah can almost decouple this crisis from Gaza? They have linked the situation here in Lebanon, its future, and gambled its future with what is happening in Gaza in terms of a ceasefire. I mean, what's your response to that?
You know, our position is really to stop the current attacks on Lebanon. But you know, the Israelis haven't been shying from attacking Lebanon for decades. Israel occupied Lebanon since South Lebanon in 1978. And then in 1982, they invaded the capital here where we sit. This was invaded by Israel. So they're not the doves that actually some people in the Western media think of them. They've been continuously violating the sovereignty of Lebanon for the past years, even after 2006 and the 1701 UN resolution. So let's go back to those basics. These are very important for everybody to know. I think when Israel gets back to its sense and they really move from the current mindset, which is in a killing spree around them, I think we might get some kind of resolution.
Are you worried about a ground offensive?
We've been worried, since many months. I mean, it's not about only ground a ground offensive or invasion. They've been invading our space and our safety. They've been invading, the communities. On last Monday, we have 50 children killed. This would make everybody worried. But I think the one that need to be worried at the moment, those are sitting in New York.
World leaders.
Of course.
You think that they are asleep at the wheel or turning a blind eye to the devastation in Lebanon?
Definitely. And it's been happening also in Gaza and other places in the region.
What expectation do you have from global leaders?
They need to be responsible for once, for the international community to push to stop this war and for a ceasefire. Every suggestion put on the table for Netanyahu has been rejected. Even what was put on the table yesterday in New York was even rejected next morning. They need to be responsible. The proposal by President Biden was put, first for Gaza.
Do you think he's been weak, President Biden, on Gaza and now on Lebanon? Because he's come out and said this can escalate even further, but he's hoping for diplomacy.
I don't think what we need from the international community and world leaders is to analyze the situation. They need to act.
President Biden is not acting enough?
Definitely. We haven't seen world leaders acting as they should be to stop this war.
As this situation, we're 5 days almost in since the devastation of Monday, if this trajectory continues, we've already seen the death toll rise. We've seen, as you say, almost 250,000 people displaced from their homes. If you go down this path, how do you analyze what is going to happen to Lebanon going forward?
If we continue on this trajectory, things are going to get even worse. I mean, last night in Biqa, in Baalbek area, we've seen the same destruction and the same bombardment that towns in South Lebanon have witnessed in the past couple of days. So if this is going to continue, we're going to see even more displacement, more people seeking shelter, more people seeking help. And this can become quite complex for a small country like Lebanon.
In 30 days, in 2006, we had 1,000 people who were killed here in Lebanon. In less than a week, the death toll is reaching almost that same number. Are you shocked by that?
Yeah, I mean, we're all shocked by the number, by the images, by the pictures of children, humanitarian workers, civil defense workers who were killed by the attacks. We've been, shocked since October 8th, but it's becoming even more frightening to see those images. But what's actually more shocking, that we still see world leaders, Western media, international commentators still kind of not looking at the essence of this problem that we've been seeing and witnessing, the violation of the Lebanese territory, Lebanese skies, Lebanese safety and people's safety for many years, but particularly for the past few weeks.
And just finally, Minister, what is your number one priority now over the course of the next 24 hours?
It's to protect people from those attacks that they've been getting from the Israeli jets.
Thank you for your time.